But jumping back for a second to what you were saying before about us being the generation that looks everything up, that was one of the things that I've been talking about for a long time, for the last, couple of years, not even just since like the election last year, but one of the things that really frustrates me is the Electoral College. Mm-hmm. And the reason that it frustrates me for a couple of reasons. For starters, because of how it was founded, the reason it was created is that it was a compromise. The idea was the people wanted to be able to select who their leader was going to be, but they didn't want it to be selected specifically by all the governors or the representatives of the state.
The people who can read and write and
who
drive.
Can exactly. When America was founded back in the late 1700s, early 1800s, the thing was there was no quick way of getting information from colony to colony or state to state or information here to there. So the reason it was founded is because people would be more likely to vote for somebody who was their local person who they knew. All of Virginia will vote for
really bad
Alexander Hamilton because Alexander Hamilton's from Virginia, or all of whatever state would vote for whoever because they're, or you know what I mean? Like, it's not just to like put it in a box and say Hamilton, but
Hamilton.
But really, but that's
4 more years.
Oh my God. 2 more beers. But that's the thing for me is that now how much effort does it take to look up the information about somebody? And I mean birth date, I mean political views, I mean wife's name, I mean kid's name, I mean when they graduated, where they graduated. Every piece of information about these people is available out there if you're running for an office, whether it's governor, whether it's president, whether it's anything. The information is going to be out there because that's just, it is. And if it's not, you're like, I don't trust this person because it's not there. Bye. So I think the Electoral College needs to be changed a little bit because also, on that same note, especially when we're electing presidents, and this goes for both sides, this isn't just because of one person or the other, but when you have 51% of a state that says, I want you, but 49% of a state says, I want somebody else, I don't think it's fair to say all the representatives from that state say, yes, everyone in this state wants that person to be elected.
Exactly.
No. That's not right, because 49% of those people, and that happened in Virginia where Hillary Clinton won with 51% and Donald Trump was at 49%, and all of Virginia went there. And I forget, maybe Pennsylvania, Michigan, I don't remember which state it was, but Donald Trump had 51% and Hillary Clinton had 49%. And I'm not saying one way or another, that's just what it is. I just don't think it was well balanced. I just said the same thing if, anybody, if Hillary had won, if anybody else had won. Ron Paul had won. Ron Paul.
That's the other biggest problem too that it goes on, and we always talk about this, the lesser of two evils kind of vote. That the Electoral College is the biggest. Hi, Greg.
Greg's over there too.
Here, we'll put Greg on camera
I'm
a little
listening
bit.
to a lot of this right now, so.
But like the thing about the Electoral College with that too is that the way it's designed, it also prevents people from the two-party system to not get in.
Yeah.
Like that's why Jill Stein and Gary Johnson didn't even have a damn chance, even though there was a ton of people that voted for him. And that's the thing too, a lot of people voted for him just to spite the system, just like, screw it, I'm just going to vote for these people because at least they're smart enough at what they're saying and they can't be too terribly awful compared to the lesser two evil crap that we keep constantly getting. So that's the problem with the Electoral College. And the other thing too, it really drives me insane, especially with the last election, is that like everyone was talking to me about the Electoral College, and I was completely against it because, I was noticing that the popular vote was always being shut down through this entire election. It was the same thing about, it was the same thing happening with the caucus votes that was going on with the Bernie Sanders Hillary Clinton thing. Like there are certain states that are saying, well, you can't vote because you're an independent or you're registered as Republican, you can't vote here. But in the state of Michigan, anyone can vote for whoever they want no matter what their affiliation is, which I think is the best solution for that problem because that gets people to vote for primaries and actually give a damn about their election process. But the thing that drove me absolutely insane about the supporters of the Electoral College is that they're saying, well, with the Electoral College in place, it prevents people who are literally corrupt and messed up politically to not be able to run. They're like people that have a lot of personal interest in running for president and doing all this stuff. We prevent them from happening that way. Yes, exactly. You're giving me a look over there. But that's the problem that I have is that, unfortunately, if you support Donald Trump or not, there is no way you can deny, even at this point, that he has not had ulterior motives for running for our president and has done things that basically does not have the best interest of America in heart.
He didn't even know what the job was to begin with.
Exactly. And that's the other thing, too. You should be a person who has the qualifications for the job. He has no idea how certain things in Congress and the rest of the world go. I'm not trying to cause a fight here.
No,
by the
it's
way.
not a fight at all.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
We agree with you. I'm just trying to namaste so I don't explode.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
thing. That's the thing that is not like. I don't even also want to cause a fight on the other side where someone throws in a fight. If you have chances to defend Trump, please do. Like, write on the comments below.
We want to
Please.
like the president of
Yeah,
the United
we
States.
yeah, exactly.
We
want
really want to like him.
We really want to see the support and understand why people support him as much as they do.
Who could have known? Who could have known that healthcare was so difficult?
Yeah, I know.
Everyone told you.
Yeah.
Everyone told you it's hard.
You're not 10 years old. You're 70 years old. Figure it out.
I mean,
That's the other thing I was going to say.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be an age restriction, an age cap on how old the president can be.
Yeah.
Because we start at 35, and I agree with that. Once you're in your 30s, you finally kind of have a solid sense of who you are, and your life should be kind of reasonably established at that point. Or maybe not. It doesn't really matter. But once you're 35, if you want to run for president, you have an idea of who you are, what your views are, where you're going, where you're at. But you get to a certain age, and I feel like...
you start driving 10 miles per hour under the speed limit everywhere.
Like, your judgment is a little bit skewed because, well, I grew up this way. It's like, yeah, but...
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, like,
But that's also I don't know if I necessarily agree with that all too much because here's another thing too. Just because I'm a millennial, that's also another thing that's driving me insane. I'm not a Bernie bro because I'm a millennial. That's another thing. I don't just support Bernie Sanders for the sake. I know you do.
I have Bernie Sanders. I don't support him because I'm a millennial.
Yeah.
I agree with what he says.
Like
but I
I'm
know
not
what you're
because
saying.
that's the thing. I'm not. Yes, I supported him because he was the best candidate I believed in the last election. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm 100% on board with him every single election up until the point where he dies. The point, because there's a lot of things that I actually do disagree with him on how I don't think I've ever disagreed with him on his stance on everything because I've agreed with him pretty much tooth and nail on every single topic. I just don't necessarily appreciate his approach at all times. But that's here nor there because the point is what I'm also trying to say is like even with the age thing, Bernie Sanders is older than Trump.
No, yeah. I mean, he wouldn't have been in the running.
If you were in the process, he wouldn't have been able to run. But at the same time, look where he's at in the Senate. He does. Not only is he actually the most popular the most popular
Senator?
No, not even senator. Politician. He's the most popular politician in the country right now. He's outbeating everybody. And in fact, the only thing that's more popular than him is the Medicare for All bill that everyone wants to have because that's at a 61%, and Bernie Sanders is at a 60% approval rating. Mm-hmm. So that just looking at those facts that's going on, it doesn't seem to. Where was I going with that? I just lost track. The point is what I'm trying to say is that like we want. Where was I going with that? Sorry, I completely.
Person old. I said old. Age
Oh yeah,
gap.
with the age and stuff like that too. We want things that make sense. He is a person who is one of the oldest guys in Senate, and he's still doing a fantastic job. So I don't know necessarily if I should have an age limit, but I think at a certain age, what you should do is kind of have, I guess, a sanity check or a
Yes.
or some form
We have
of
to take tests to get into
Consider
college.
this.
so-
Consider this. How long does a teacher works for 30 years, and then after 30 years, they're going to start taking away your benefits if you don't retire because you're not qualified to do that anymore because you.
yeah.
So why isn't that the case with other jobs that require you to have a sane sense of mind for
ironically-
people who are governor, people who are senate, people who are representatives, people who are mayors? Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not qualified because the thing you learned 30 years ago might not be relevant anymore.
Well, let's get away from even like jobs. Let's go to something you do every day, which is drive a car. Now,
Yeah.
in the United States, you are you required to take any test? I don't really know if you're
Yes.
required to take
Yeah,
any
you
tests.
You have to take
certain amount of
both
time.
tests, even when you're 18.
Like, is it every 10 years? Is that how often it is?
No, you don't know.
No, you
don't
have to
take
get
a
a new
test for
driver's
every-
license.
No, I'm talking about.
He's
after
talking
you
about
get your
renewing.
After you get your driver's license.
Do you ever have to
renew
take a
it
test to
at a
renew it
certain
besides an
point,
eye
right?
exam?
Your eye and hearing and stuff you have to redo, but the actual street stuff you don't have to do until you mess up so much that
yeah,
you get
so
your
I-
license
and I
taken
think
away.
that's extremely wrong.
Yeah, it's irresponsible, man.
Everybody changes no matter how good they are at driving, especially when you get older. Everybody's like mindset changes, and I feel like you should have to at some point prove that you can still do that, and it makes people focus more on all of the skills that are required for driving as well. Yeah. And I feel like it's just kind of like gone to the wayside in this country of like not keeping up with who is supposed to be like I don't know who's credible for that anymore, because nobody wants to take up responsibility for the safety on the roads.
The problem is, though, too, is that it's also, I feel like our country is, and I find this actually a good thing, but our country as a whole tends to want to give people their rights and don't necessarily want to take it away from them.
Innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, but the idea of innocent until proven guilty. Just because you're an 87-year-old guy doesn't mean that you can't drive a car.
Yes.
But at the same time, that actually might be the case, but we're afraid to say that because another thing, too, about this country, which is, again, I think a good thing, is that we do actually still value the elderly in our country. Mm-hmm. We don't necessarily we don't value the fact that we want them to continuously give us advice and stuff like that and how things go, but we don't necessarily want to make their lives miserable because they're just, old people.
No, and you gotta have perspective too, right? That's one of the reasons we talk to the people that we do when they get older, is because they give a different perspective on life, because they grew up a different way than we did, because they grew up in a different environment, a different world. Things that they could get away with back then, we might not ever be able to get away with now because of technology, the advancements in technology, or the advancements in the way that we monitor things, or anything else. I mean, in the same way. And it's good to look at something if those who do not know their history are doomed to repeat it. Isn't that what the thing is?
Yeah, you said it.
Yes.
Those who don't talk to the old people are going to probably do the same shit the old people did when they were young. Mm-hmm. Like, I was stupid when I was young because I didn't do this. Should I do that? Do that! Don't be dumb. And it's easy to say. It's hard to do. I'm not saying I'm perfect. Hell, I've done a lot of stupid things in my life. But honestly, if I had a chance to talk to somebody who was asking me advice about that, I would say, here's why I was stupid when I was your age. You're probably not as stupid as me, but look at these stupid things I did. Don't be stupid like me. Be smart. Do this instead, Ask for help if you need help. Reach out to somebody. People are there to help you. If they, your family loves you.
That's the thing, and kind of going back to the whole millennial discussion, because again, like we said before, we are probably just going to, derail the conversation to something completely different. But the whole point, the whole point of the action of doing.
That was actually a really good time.
Yeah,
I was very impressed.
The whole point of with the whole idea with millennials is that the idea of just we are afraid to ask for advice, or we do stupid things and stuff like that. I was like, I've never met a generation who doesn't have younger people who don't do stupid things.
Exactly.
And
that's what I meant.
You want to know why?
As a millennial, I feel dumb for not asking for help. No, as an 18-year-old, I feel like a moron because I was 18 and stupid.
Yeah.
Because your frontal lobe isn't fully developed until you're 25.
Where's your frontal lobe?
Right there. It's in the front.
Frontal lobe.
It's in the front part of your hand.
The frontal lobe is in the front, which is
front.
actually the more advanced thing that separates us from other species, is the frontal lobe, and that is not 100% developed until you're approximately 25. So
I'm developed.
Approximately, dude.
Approximately. Some people it takes a little longer.
But that's why,
that's why I felt
generation.
That's why I felt so front heavy lately.
But that's why the younger generations are always just stupid, because even even if
it's not a younger generation, it's just young people.
Well,
people.
But that's what each younger generation is stupid because they have to learn stuff on their own. Even if they do get the advice and stuff, they can't take that advice and connect it with the situation that they're in and be able to see it on a global level to say, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't do that.
And everyone gets through that kind of thing, obviously. There are people who do better at it than not. It's like, for example, I was a typical kid when I was younger where it's like, don't do this. I immediately, by my parents, okay, I won't do this. It's just, for me like that. My sister, on the other hand, don't do this. What? Immediately would hurt her hand or touch her hand on the stove or do something.
That's what we call trial by fire.
Listen to the last generation. Sometimes. Not always.
But the point is though is that like with that with people who are trial by fire or trial just by people who do naturally listen or do whatever they do. The point is that we can't label everyone to be the same, because I just gave you 2 examples of a situation where my sister and I are relatively the same age. We're 4 years apart, and we have totally different ways of doing different things and how we do things and how we get in trouble and how we get out of trouble. You know, we are not the same people, and to kind of generalize this is to be ridiculous. The thing is that I don't mind people who, and this is not stereotyping, but I don't mind people who generalize all that much. It's only when you start to stereotype is when it becomes a problem. So, like, for example, like, you know, you're a psychology major. You know that, I pointed at Nolani, by the way, not Jake.
That's why I didn't move. I was like, you're a psychology major, aren't you?
I'm not here.
I'm a Jedi major. But it's not the brains you're looking for.
But the point the point is what I'm saying is though, like, you know, especially when it comes to like the human experience, there's so many factors that are involved.
Oh yeah.
And you also know the fact, too, that the reason why the brain naturally does it is that it's a form of autopilot. Because if all the information that we gather in a daily basis about one subject, which could literally be, that one subject could be just one person, would be far too much for our brains to be like, okay, we got to remember every single aspect of this human being that's in front of me. That's crazy. Like,
Done.
Jake, could you share with the audience the power of osmosis?
No.
I know you now. It's not osmosis, Greg. I'm not made of water. It's called something else
Actually,
that I don't
a lot
remember
of you
from
is made of
science.
water.
Yes.
Yep.
So it is osmosis.
I'm thirsty.
The point is what I'm trying to say though is that with the idea that you can generalize, because there's no way we can always say like, okay, so this person's from this culture, therefore they're going to do this generally. That's okay, because that is our brain comprehending a ton of information and generalizing it in a central location to where we could interact with that person. The problem is when you do that at a constant state and you turn it into a stereotype. Like some of the dumbest stereotypes, like black people love watermelon. Who doesn't like watermelon? What the hell does that come from? You know, or the idea of like Chinese people are smart at math. You know, silly things that go on like that. It's like, that's not true. You know, I've met a lot of
Italians talk like this.
Yeah, like,
we never talk like that.
It's like we make up things that are just simply not true, or you know, like Mexican have bad hombres or something silly, some silly concept that we are built.
Que hombres.
Like it doesn't work if you are literally focusing your entire life stereotyping people. Like,
well, what have I said to you? What would I just say to you not too long ago was the new catchphrase of my life.
Oh, yeah, you can't put everything in a box.
I said you can't put people in boxes. And basically, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You can't put people in boxes. And it just falls into that thing like you said. Categorization happens. And naturally, people are inclined to categorize people. Well, you are Italian, so you go in the Italian column. But you're from, you know, North Dakota, so you're an Italian North Dakotan or whatever, which is not, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, we tend to put people in boxes based on certain things, but not everybody's going to fit in that same little box. There might be some people who fit there, but there's so many different kinds of people and so many generalizations we just can't make. I understand what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Like, there are certain things you can generalize about just based on the fact that you grew up in this culture. So right. This is probably what your ideals are going to be or who you're going to be. Whereas, and that's just because you lived in France. And reasons, you know what I mean? You lived in America, so you have a more I don't know. But you know, that's what I'm saying, though. There are certain things for certain people who live in certain countries or are from certain cultures that are generalized just because that's what it is. But you can't put everybody that way.